Hello and welcome to Africa Speaks. Today we focus on South Sudan employment or South Sudan jobs. Is the employment circular in South Sudan good or not? And that is what we're going to be focusing on. But first, let's take a look at Web City. Senegalese-American pop and R&B singer Akon has taken on a mission to bring electricity to 1 million homes in Africa by the end of the year 2014. His project, titled Akon Lighting Africa, is supported by the group effort of Akon Group, the Give One Project, and Selectra International. Seeking to alter the fact that 2/3 of sub-Saharan Africa's population and 85% of rural Africa are without or lacking access to electricity, Akon has begun a 9-country tour to develop the project. Guinea-Conakry, Congo, Ivory Coast, and Mali are a few of the nations where meetings with heads of state have been discussed. This week, Akon paid a courtesy call to State House, Nairobi, and met Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta on the same Africa Akon Lighting Project. UNICEF is launching a $200 million emergency appeal to stop the spread of the Ebola virus. About 8.5 million children and youth live in areas affected by Ebola in Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. UNICEF now says it needs over $200 million to respond to the Ebola outbreak that has claimed over 2,400 lives and ravaged communities across West Africa. This is part of a broader 6-month appeal for $987.8 million that governments and humanitarian agencies require to fight the disease. Of the $200 million, nearly $65 million will go to UNICEF programs in Liberia, around $61 million to Sierra Leone, and more than $55 million to Guinea. An additional $10 million will help neighboring countries be prepared for a potential spread of the disease within their borders. And the remaining $9 million are required for regional coordination efforts. UNICEF estimates that 8.5 million children and young people under the age of 20 live in areas affected by Ebola in Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Of these, 2.5 million are under the age of 5. And Ugandan President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has replaced his Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi, removing a former ally who some analysts had seen as a potential future contender for the top job. A lawyer, Amama Mbabazi has enjoyed a close relationship with Uganda's veteran leader, but relations between the two had become strained recently, with Museveni accusing Amama Mbabazi of taking decisions in the ruling party without consulting him. Amama Mbabazi had not said if he planned to run for president. The new Prime Minister of Uganda is Ndugu Ruhakana Rugunda, who has been Health Minister until his new appointment. Now, last week, Ghanaian-American Clifford Owusu and YouTube sensation did show us how explosive Americans and Spaniards dance, and we didn't get the real deal of how exactly Africans do it. Here now, take a look at how we Africans tend to dance.
Like I said, Africans are very dramatic. Everything is a showcase. Everything is a show. So when Africans dance, the thing that you need to notice the most is their facial expressions. We make the craziest faces. Sometimes it's even scary, okay? And if you don't believe me, watch this clip that I shot almost 2 months ago. Check this out. Did you see my face? Did you see all the expressions that happened while I was dancing? Did you see how my face became more nasty as I got more into the dance? See, that's the thing about Africans. When we dance, we know we are killing it. And when you are killing something, you don't have time to smile. You don't have time to be singing along to the song because you know you are killing it. Ain't nothing pretty about killing something, okay? So there isn't gonna be any smiling, okay? But right now, I'm gonna show you an example of a typical African at an event about to kill it. Pay attention. See, first is that I'm about to kill it face, okay? It goes like this. After that, you know, they start off real cool, real gentle, you know. Africans know how to switch things up very fast. They know how to turn up very, very fast. Okay, so when they go to an event and they see that somebody's over there killing it more than them, they switch it up very quickly. When they go to an event, they see that the whole room is watching them dance, they switch it up very quickly. If they go to an event and they're in the middle of a circle and all their friends are going, hey, 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 they switch it up very quick. And you're asking yourself, how do they switch it up very quickly? Well, what Africans do when they want to turn up is either they hop or they jump, and then they just kill it. So when you see an African hop at a party, step back. Things are about to get real. I'll show you what I mean. So let's say they're dancing. They see in the corner of their eye that somebody's killing them more than them. All of a sudden, it just hits them. And the thing about Africans, when they turn up and they're dancing, they will not stop dancing till the DJ turns off the music and the MC is like, okay, thank you, you have done well, please have a seat.
All right. Now, welcome to the platform, and I hope that this time you do agree with me that sometimes as Africans we can be explosive when it comes to our dance moves and, you know, the facial expressions that we do have while pulling out those moves. Now, this week, South Sudan's Ministry for Labor issued a ministerial circular that ordered all companies and NGOs to reconsider all foreign nationals working in South Sudan by mid-October 2014. At least that is the report that we received. And the same circular went further to mention some specific positions be advertised and filled with nationals with the assistance of the ministry. Specifying the roles to be South Sudanized adds further confusion to all mentioned in the circular. Now, KTN's Edith Kimani earlier in the week filed this report.
The government of South Sudan says it is not expelling any foreign workers despite a circular sent out on Tuesday asking its employers to advertise positions held by foreign nationals. This statement from the Labour Ministry in South Sudan defending the circular, which drew sharp criticism from different quarters. In reference to the circular, we are not talking about technical or professional positions. We are targeting low-level positions existing in the various organizations, the Labour Ministry explained. 60% of those working in these specific positions have to be South Sudanese nationals. UN agencies and diplomatic missions, the statement continues, will not be affected. But with a recorded 25,000 Kenyans living and working in South Sudan, it is not known how many will be affected by this policy. Manyuan Mach Deng, a South Sudanese national living in Kenya, says his government is finally making the right moves.
It's not a shock, it is a joy. You know, that is misleading Kenyans. It's a joy. We are very happy because our government now are because they were in mess, we were in war, and our mind was not thinking. But now people who are thinking are really very wise, and they are the people who are now giving us the channels.
It's not a one-sided thing, as the way Kenya has taken it, that the government has expelled. No.
It is going to strengthen the relationship between South Sudan and Kenya.
Kenyans reacted differently to this turn of events.
And if they do so that, then Kenya should do the same, kick them back, which is not good.
Inategemea na viongozi. Lakini kama sisi wananchi wa chini sisi tunaona kama itaweza kuharibu uhusiano kati yetu na South Sudan.
South Sudan insists it is not backtracking on any decision, saying Wednesday's statement was simply a clarification on an issue that was taken out of context. Edith Kimani, KTN.
Now, while this could be a good policy intended to help localize opportunities to South Sudanese, it seems the government of South Sudan has done it without due diligence to diplomatic implications and also the operationalization considerations as well. It is reported that South Sudan, through the Ministry of Interior, did ask that at least more South Sudanese be considered for most of these jobs. And earlier in the year, you know, there was an order that was issued by South Sudan on motorcycle riders, because I think most of them were from Uganda. And this got the attention of Ugandan's parliamentarians, with some members looking at South Sudan as attacking her economic interest. Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and some other IGAD countries might not be affected. It's only fair that we get the facts clear. In a world running on principle of self-interest, will foreign nations allow South Sudan to age them off? And joining me in studio to discuss further is Ambassador Mariano Deng Ngor, who is the South Sudan ambassador to Kenya. At such times, let's clear the facts. What exactly did the circular read that was issued by the Ministry of Information?
The intention to establish laws that regulate the job market, the investors' right, is well intended. As you know, South Sudan is a new nation, and as a new nation, we have to develop these laws. And as it had been done by many nations in the past and continue, for such a law to be developed, South Sudan is not unique. It is a living document and will be adjusted in order to suit the circumstances and the time. And we are dealing here with a very important issues of which we are intending and continue to work with our key neighbors, our trading partners in the regions and beyond.
All right. And in this case, are we saying that this circular remains as was issued, you know, by the ministry in this case? Did it specifically intend to get rid of foreign employment, or was it just an issue that was misunderstood by media houses across the African continent?
There was no intention to target. The intention was to provide an environment whereby the citizen would know the right, and also the investors who have come to invest and also to benefit. The citizen of South Sudan and South Sudan know their right. Laws are always intended to provide fairness to both, because we know that when we have laws that attract business, attract investors, both business, investors, and South Sudan will be the winner. It has to be win-win situation. You don't approach business, you don't approach development with the view of winning and the other losing.
Well, we've seen countries like Ethiopia that have come up with, you know, a workforce matrix that says that out of every five people a foreign investor employs, 3 of them must be Ethiopian. Is this the kind of direction that South Sudan is trying to take?
As a young nation, these are strategies and steps that will be borne by the facts. For time being, and at the moment, we are at the beginning. And as you know, no law anywhere, even in South Sudan, will be precise and maximum in terms of addressing what it was intended.
Right.
It will be developed and adjusted, and also we will have a dialogue with our you know, key neighbors who are, by the way, the same people sometimes live across the border. So we are one people, and we are very mindful, and we have a very, very historical ties and economic and cultural ties with Kenya, even with Uganda, even with Ethiopia. You
and
cannot
Eritrea
tell.
as well.
And Eritrea were
So
right.
I'm just wondering, currently in South Sudan, what is the workforce metrics? For instance, if they are foreign investors in South Sudan, how many of, or what's the percentage of the workforce that should be South Sudanese and which of the workforce should be foreign?
This is now the beginning. You have just had now, this is a law. And as you know, law take time to develop, leave alone quoting a statistic offhand. So it will take time. But let me tell you this. Some of the multinational, especially bank, of Kenya, KCB and CFC, Equity and so on, have a very large South Sudanese public servant, hosting their account or having account with them. These are intertwined relations that cannot be easily entangled over months, and there is no reason even to separate them, because we have those special relations. As I told you, we will develop together, and development itself will point the direction where we will go.
Right.
The president was quoted extensively that part of this regulation will be rescinded. The foreign minister, Honorable Minister Mariel Benjamin, was on TV the other day, and he stated that the period that had been given by the circular will be rescinded, and that negotiations are going on between the diplomatic representations of Kenya and all other neighboring countries. So we are very mindful. This is just, I think, one of those things you experience when you are doing something for the first time, but people shouldn't read into it, leave alone even talking about anybody targeted. We are not going to do that.
It's just part of the growth strategy for South Sudan.
It's a part of the growth strategy.
But now, South Sudan is a very young nation, and I'm starting to think from what you're saying that maybe South Sudanese citizens have been left out of certain key positions. If yes, which are some of those sectors where South Sudanese have been left out? Because where we're seeing the bigger part of South Sudanese employed is in the banking institutions. But what about the other sectors?
And that is why I am cautioning that session, because I'm a South Sudanese. I have just been to Juba, by the way, for 3 months and 19 days. And when I go, sometime I go to CFC because I have my account there. There is a good number of South Sudanese working there.
What about the other sectors?
And even I just quoted you the situation of KCB, where it is very highly integrated in terms of services to South Sudanese citizens. And also some of the investors have gone in partners with South Sudanese. So this is going to be addressed case by case. And we are not going to jeopardize also the investment that is benefiting the citizen of South Sudan. And that is why I'm saying people reading into this should really take a look carefully and address these issues fairly, not to talk of targeting and people being, exported or something like that. It is not going to happen to Kenyan citizen, a country that is home to many South Sudanese in the days of our struggle and continue to be.
All right. Speaking to us in studio about South Sudan jobs and foreign employment is Ambassador Mariano Deng Ngo. Welcome back. You're watching Africa Speaks, and today we are focusing on South Sudan employment or foreign nationals working in South Sudan, and our hashtag today is Africa Speaks. Now, there's a caricature that was drawn by one of our cartoonists here at the Standard Group, and he was trying to put into perspective just how South Sudan has come, or how far South Sudan has come. And if you take a look at that right there, you would actually see that in the beginning, the foreign workers were helping, South Sudan to, bring them up. I would say literally bringing them up. And then now what we're seeing is a situation where South Sudan is saying, look, I think I'm grown up enough, so you might as well pack your bags and go. I don't think I need you to teach me how to walk anymore. And Ambassador, what do you think about the interpretation of that? It comes from the interpretation of the circular that was issued earlier in the week.
I think the interpretation is taken out of context. It is interpreting a situation that has never been intended, that was not there. It has gone into public understanding. Our call will be that our relation is more than what this cartoon is depicting. It's more dynamic than that.
Okay.
So I hope next time the cartoonist will come out with a better representative kind of cartoon. I have seen it, by the way, and I intend to keep it to remind me of what can happen.
Okay, I'll be sure to email it to you. Now, we've got, of course, a number of responses coming through here. Jay Okoth is saying, did it escape the South Sudan government that these diplomatic procedures and due protocol, or are they just used to confrontation when it comes to the circular that was issued? And we're also having one coming in from Eriko Onyango, who is saying, I believe South Sudan can't go alone, considering that only 27% of the population there is literate. So what happens in this situation? Because one thing we're looking at is the literacy levels in South Sudan are very low. So when you say that you're issuing out a circular that should give opportunity to more South Sudanese, don't you think it's going to slow down the levels of growth in the country?
Well, first and foremost, when you listen to a neighbor, you actually have to be very conscious and listen to the people that, or to the official that you should be listening to. This saying and intended meaning are not actually addressing the fact that the government is well aware of its responsibility to our key neighbors. Our leadership in two countries and even in the neighborhood as a whole are very close. So I would ask both gentlemen to really do a research and give an opinion that address the whole message rather than actually pick a part of it that might have not been intended to be communicated that way and try and force it back and say, this is what you are saying. Listen to us, South Sudan, the government, and hear what the government wanted to do, and then now design your question or opinion after that.
All right, what people haven't yet gotten clear right now, and those are a lot of the questions that we are receiving now, everyone wants to know, is there a need for foreign nationals currently in South Sudan to prepare to leave by the end or by mid next month? Can we put that clear? Is there a need for them to prepare, pack up their bags and be on their way out of South Sudan?
That has been unequivocally rescinded, and it has been made clear at official level, both by our foreign minister as well as our president on the top. Also, no country can go alone at this modern age. All countries in one area or another need foreign input. We need one another. And in particular, we in the neighborhood here, we need one another. We have more ties than just, diplomatic relation, trade relation. We have people-to-people relation that are ancient and that are historical, and that have always been like that and will continue to be like that. You cannot separate a cousin from nephew, an uncle, from auntie. It just does not work.
All right.
And nobody have intention of ever doing that. We are one people. When
you say cousin, you're actually talking about the IGAD countries, but then you're not talking about the other nationals who fall outside of the IGAD, nationals.
Well, the intent debate had been taking place in specific countries, not even in IGAD members countries. And it is those countries that I'm principally addressing. Top among all these countries is Kenya, where I am here to lead the relation between our two
Ambassador
countries.
Mariano would also like to know, there's a lot of South Sudanese who have fled the country. They've gone to various African countries. Some of them have gone outside of Africa, and they're in all parts of the continents around the world. But then when it comes to the remittances that are repatriated back home, just about how much are we looking at? That if we're going to look at a situation where South Sudan is developing her own country by South Sudanese, then we are going to say, okay, this is just how much comes into the country from the diasporians, and so we are on a safe side to say we are getting rid of foreign nationals.
Again, whatever we do, we are doing it in order to develop as a nation. A strong South Sudan is for the benefit of Kenya and the country in the region. It means that we are coming to a certain level whereby we can now, trade, communicate, and relate to each other. There are certain issues that will need our collective effort, our collective strength. So it is actually a plus, our strength. Coming to South Sudanese in diaspora, South Sudan is a very democratic, young and democratic country, born at the age when democracy is very essential.
It's a
we were born
state.
Actually, our leadership, the parliament, the president, you name it, had been elected. And we are children of democracy. And we are opening door to our diaspora. I myself, I come from diaspora. In public service, no less than 20% have foreign passport. And this just show you how open and how welcoming South Sudan institution, the government, is proactive.
All right, but what's being done to encourage South Sudanese who are living in the diaspora to go back home and just be part of the development? Because I'm thinking that because of this gap, that is why we're having so many foreign nationals in South Sudan, and yet we should have South Sudanese in the diaspora come home and develop their own country. So why aren't we seeing a lot of encouragement for South Sudanese to come back and be part of development?
I just quoted to you. I am just a living proof here. And even in my embassy here, my deputy also have another different passport, a dual national. So you can see that we are well represented. The business sector too is actually being brought up rapidly by South Sudanese. What you see here is a very big and complex issue in a sense that South Sudan has never been a nation on its own. This is the first time the SPLM, SPLA have liberated the country with the help of our neighbors of region and international community. And establishing a young nation, it takes time. But you look at Juba, the hotels in Juba, the road in Juba, our tarmac road from Juba to Nimule, Uganda border. This has been done during the last 7, 8 years. And if you go to Juba now, and stand there at the balcony of new hotel mushrooming with owners from Africa even to Asia, you would think that it is another capital in Africa that had been there for 10 years.
Right.
Yet when we went there were less than 50 people in Juba.
All right, let's spare some time and talk about the current political situation in South Sudan. We've seen the peace talks being moved from Addis to the northern part of Ethiopia, and there's very little progress that's being made in terms of bringing peace back to South Sudan. And with the current situation, and with all these circulars being issued, at the end of the day, what progress is being made with the peace talks? How far are we seeing the two rival leaders, that is the former Vice President Riek Machar and President Salva Kiir, are they close to an agreement somewhere?
The government, as an elected government, a responsible government, is committed to peace. Absolutely. That is why in August we signed protocol, on principle of transition to establishing a transition government. President Salva Kiir has, signed this, and leaders of IGAD, 6 of them signed, but the rebel leader, Riek Machar, refused. As a democratic government, we are answerable to citizens. And President Kiir is a choice, a popular choice of the people of South Sudan in an election that was supervised by the region, IGAD itself, international community. And it was judged as fair and free. There is nowhere, I remember, a rebel leader that was part of election, approved the election, can rebel and be equated and brought together as equal to the president and say, well, there is a struggle over the leadership. There is one struggle here, the rebellion against an elected head of state. And a democracy by the people, for the people, is the way to go. He is the one refusing, he did not sign, and he's attacking even a few days ago. His forces are attacking our forces, even if the government forces, even though the government forces are observing the ceasefire negotiated and signed by IGAD, and signed by him too. So it is him really to come to the table. The region has to work and pressure him. President Kiir, I have watched his hand in a sense that he said to the region, I am here to work with you. And he has signed the protocol.
Right. All right. I'll just read 2 comments from Twitter under the hashtag Africa Speaks. And Casilas out is saying, I don't see much of a difference between this South Sudan directive and Idi Amin's. There we go. And now they're equating what happened in Uganda years back in 1977 to what's happening in South Sudan today. Because if you decide to kick out foreign nationals, then you're almost behaving like Idi Amin, who kicked out Asians out of Uganda. Now, I would like to hear your final remarks very briefly.
Thank you. There is no comparison at all. First and foremost, we are not kicking out anybody. We are not targeting out anybody. The government is a democratic government that had been elected by the people to serve the interests of the people and the region, including Kenya, who had been instrumental in bringing CPA about, resulting into independent. We want to see a peaceful, democratic South Sudan. Idi Amin was not a Democrat.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Mariano Deng. It was such an honor having you, enlighten us about the circular. And well, for any other questions, I'm sure you can reach the South Sudan Embassy to clarify more on what exactly is behind this circular and how it affects you. But from what we get from the Ambassador Mariano is that that circular has been rescinded. And therefore, if there's no evictions for foreign nationals, it's going to be business as usual, but this time involving more South Sudanese nationals. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. God bless.